guess we could probably start with the series that feel like they are more decided than others, just to run through those pretty quick. And, that starts with games that happen tonight, which is Oklahoma City and Memphis. The Thunder are just rolling through the Grizzlies. And hey, honestly, the Grizzlies are a good basketball team. And to see them playing the way that they are against the Thunder just kind of puts into perspective how much better this team is. And we've been saying it all year on this pod, how much better this team is than people give them credit for. They are suffocating defensively. And I think it was Chet that said at one point on the bench, the Thunder bench was talking to themselves about damn, man, I would hate to play our defense. And I'm sure the Grizzlies are feeling the same way. Even when they were keeping it close in game 2, it just felt like the Thunder were one run away from blowing it back open. And that's exactly what happened. And, my biggest takeaway from that series so far, and this is what I had written down, I think the Thunder lose under 4.5 games before they reach the NBA Finals. It feels like they are going to roll through the Western Conference. Shea hasn't even gotten going yet. They look like the best team through and through in the West. And I know all year we were like, the West is going to be a gauntlet. It's going to be a battle. And I still feel that way. And don't get me wrong. The Clippers and the Nuggets have both looked really, really good, and that would be their second round opponent. But to me, it just feels like the Thunder are the deepest team. They're the most complete team. And again, Shea hasn't even gotten going yet, and they're already destroying the Grizzlies like that. So I think they're the best team in the West, and I think they lose less than 4.5 games to get to the NBA Finals.
I mean, destroying is putting it kindly. They won game 1 by 51 and won game 2 by 19. So 70-point margin of victory through the first 2 games. And it makes sense as fitting for the team with the greatest average margin of victory in NBA history. And you mentioned Shea. I mentioned this yesterday with some of our coworkers. You got to go back to the butter SGAs. There's no buckets in the gray ones. You got to go back to the wheat colored ones, because the gray ones are fire. And I'm excited to win those Converse SGA. I might be my new basketball shoe, but gray ones, he's got to find the buckets in the gray ones. I think it was 15 points in game 1, another rough shooting night in game 2. But again, they're just so dominant. And before I give my overreaction and take on this series, one is curious because it's going to go against what you said about the Grizzlies. But 2, I was having this conversation with friend of the program, part of the NBA Soundsystem lineage, Carlin Gay, yesterday, and he was talking about the Thunder and how if there weren't names attached to their guys, I guess 4 through 12, people will be higher on them. But it's the fact that a lot of these guys aren't known commodities, that the casual fan doesn't necessarily know much about Isaiah Joe or Andrew Wiggins. And people know Alex Caruso because we did with the Lakers, and Lou Dort a little bit because of last year. But these guys are so good. But I think that the lack of name recognition has caused the Thunder to be a little more disrespected. And I think that these wins and the way they're winning and the way they're beating the Grizzlies is not only sending a message to their opponent, but sending a message to the casual fans and the outside world who don't take this team very seriously.
Yeah, absolutely. I think even if you were to look on, I don't know, Dante DiVincenzo is more of a homegrown name, but did he have a better season than Aaron Wiggins this year? Honestly, probably not. Do you know what I mean? You could go down the line for the players on that Thunder roster. That's honestly a really good take. And, I'm not surprised by that. Carlin shoots, he gets a lot of shots up, but, he has a pretty high hit rate too. So I'm not going to knock that, but I think that's a good take. They are through and through, the depth is what has gotten this team this far. And the fact that head coach Mark Dagnall can just kind of pick and choose the spots for different guys. They have so many guys. I honestly think that the other Jalen Williams, Jalen Williams, he is probably very, very, very high up on the list of NBA players where if they had a different role on a different team, he could be a household name coming off the bench. He could be given, I don't know if I would say Bobby Portis, Nas Reed numbers, but just the way that he plays the game and the way that he can do everything. He's not even in their everyday rotation. That's how deep this team is. So I think casual fans are starting to get a little bit more of a feel through these first 2 games. If they've even bothered to turn them on after game 1, they're starting to get a little bit more of a feel for just how good this Thunder team is. But it's the defense, it's the depth, it's the fact that so many different guys can beat you. And then again, head of the snake, Shea hasn't even gotten going yet. I mean, the guy was averaging basically 35 a game in the regular season. He's probably averaging I think it's 22 or something.
21,
right now,
I think it's 15 and 27 in the first 2 games. Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, that's just they're waiting to kind of wake that bear up. But the Thunder are rolling through the Grizzlies, and I honestly don't think the Grizzlies win a game in this series.
Yeah, and that's my last point here, and it goes against what you were saying. I think the Grizzlies might need to explore blowing it up this offseason, and that is my overreaction from that. You said they're a good team, and I don't disagree with you. They looked really good to me in the play-in tournament against Golden State, and then they handled their business against Dallas. But this is another conversation we were having in the office, just that like starting to learn that I think everybody is maybe punching up a class, right? I think maybe you can't get but so far with Ja. Number one, love Ja. I think Ja is incredible, most exciting player, box office. If I had money to pay to watch somebody play, Ja is high up there on the list. But like maybe he should be your number two. Maybe Jaren Jackson should be your number three. I think Desmond Bane is capable of being a number three, but I just think that as constructed, there's not really a way that this Grizzlies team can do anything to improve, especially given the state of the Western Conference and like the teams that they're trying to match and get better than or get as good as. I think they're in a tough spot. And we saw it. It's just crazy to think that for everything that we've said about this Grizzlies team and the 50-win seasons, finishing second in the West twice, they've won one playoff series. And here we are, that was in 2022. Here we are. That's like four seasons now in the books now. Might not win a game this year. It's like, where do they go from here? And my question is, maybe they're better suited. Like, we mentioned it at the trade deadline after the Luka trade. I said I could see Ja getting moved. Maybe that's what happens now. Maybe it's, maybe they try to build around Jaren Jackson Jr. I don't know what it is, but it feels like there's going to be a lot of change in Memphis, especially if they get swept the way it looks like they might get swept.
That's a tough decision to make too. Like when you feel like you have young pieces, a young core, young team, you were a 2 seed 2 years ago, and then you had a lottery level team because of injuries. And now like, I don't know. It's just like, because that's not an easy decision to make. And actually it's funny. This is going to play into a conversation that I'm going to bring up later on in the show with a different series as well. But like you have Ja Morant and you have Jaren Jackson Jr. Those are two awesome young players that anybody would love to have on their team. But to your point, like, are they good enough as a tandem to get to the same level as some of the other duos in the NBA? Like, probably not. But then where do you make that decision? Like, yes, with all the baggage that has come with Ja over the last couple of years, it probably feels like it's smarter to move on from him and build around Jaren Jackson Jr. But at the same time, like you said, he's box office. He is electrifying. He probably leads that team in jersey sales. He's probably the fan favorite. And as we've already seen in Dallas, like it's risky parting ways with a player like that. So it's like, what are you going to get in return that is going to take you to that next level where subtracting Ja would get you someone better or take you closer to that next level? But, like you said, we're talking about 2 playoff series where they probably aren't going to make it out of the first round when they were one of the better teams in the league. I mean, this year they had to play their way through the play-in, but
148 games still though.
Right. 148 games. Exactly. Yeah. So, it's not an easy decision to make. And I don't envy the person that's making that decision in the Grizzlies front office.
Yeah, it just shows the importance. And I again, love Zach Edey and what he's done. And I think it's just tough lessons he's learned in the playoffs, but it just goes and speaks to the importance when you contrast him with a team like the Thunder, how important it is to build through the draft. And then you have the financial flexibility to bring a free agent in like Isaiah Hartenstein. And I think the Thunder have just executed things perfectly and also have had some luck on their side as well. We can stay on that side of the bracket because, you talked about the Clippers and the Nuggets, and these teams are beating each other up. So they very well are going to run into a very fresh Thunder team in the second round. But how do you feel about that series through 2 games? We got vintage Kawhi at 39 points in game 2. So where are you at with it?
I mean, I had Clippers in 7 going into the series. I still feel pretty strongly about that. Yeah. I think this is a series that's going to go the distance. I mean, these teams, it's like there are 2 points that separate them in total points. They're like tied in assists, tied in threes. I think it was tied in steals, tied in turnovers. Like through 2 games across the board, this has been a very even series. But, the overreaction is that Kawhi Leonard's still a top 5, and this isn't even overreaction at this point, still a top 5 playoff riser, top 5 playoff performer in the NBA. And you could probably even go higher than top 5, when he's playing the way that he is right now and the way that he looks right now. Like that game the other night was 2019 flashbacks, man. And like, I saw some Raptors fans on Twitter being like, it's unreal that like, that's the Kawhi that gets, associated with the level that he's playing at right now. But, it was just that level of just surgical, just pure buckets from all over the floor. You and I were texting during that game laughing about like how robotic some of those mid-range jumpers looked. And it was literally just as simple as like catch ball, up fake, 1 dribble, pull up, nothing but net, like doesn't even touch the rim. And, to have 39 on 19 shots is just like, that's next level. That is next level. So Kawhi's back, man. And that's a bad sign for the Nuggets. And that's why, I feel even more confidently in doubling down that the Clippers are going to win the series.
Yeah, my take was Kawhi too, and it was just kind of like I guess it's an overreaction, but thinking just about like where he is and where he stands, and he could end up with like one of the best playoff careers we've ever seen. Like, I think it would take another championship, another Finals MVP, but it doesn't feel like it's out of the realm of possibility at this point based on what we've seen. Obviously, a lot of things have to break their way. I think they match up with the Thunder interestingly. Don't think they can match the Thunder's offensive. And this is if they win. This series is as much of a toss-up as a toss-up can get. But they could make things interesting, and it will bring back the Shea trade back into the spotlight, which is kind of funny to think about. And it was cool, too. I saw a lot of Raptors fans saying, look, Kawhi's got on a red uniform now, and he's tapping back in to that level, because it did look familiar. And you got Norm making big shots down the stretch, too. And that's when I texted again. I was like, yo, shout out to Norm, man. What we saw. And he's had some ups and downs and some struggles, in these playoffs as well. But to that same point and to the same overreaction point, and I don't even necessarily think it's an overreaction at this point, Denver's going to have to do something. If they can't get out of the first round this year, best player in the world, don't want to waste his prime. He's 30 now. And honestly, I think maybe this is an overreaction. Maybe this is how I feel. Maybe it's not that crazy to say, but I don't really trust that many guys on that roster. I trust Jamal to step up in the playoffs because it's Jamal. I trust Aaron Gordon to do what Aaron Gordon does. That's about it.
No, I totally hear you. And it's like Michael Porter Jr. was kind of supposed to be that guy, right? Like he had those flashes where it's like, especially during the championship run. I know he had some ups and downs, but it was like he should be the other guy that can create his own shot, get you a bucket when Jokic and Jamal need a breather. And like he just hasn't turned into that, and he's just continued to be super inconsistent his entire career. And Christian Brown has honestly turned into more of that guy of being able to go get a bucket like than MPJ has. And to your point, like Aaron Gordon's perfect for his role, but I think what they need him to do right now is outside of his role, because they're not getting it from other players. And, they sacrifice a lot of depth. They let Bruce Brown walk. They let Jeff Green walk. They let KCP walk. Like
it wears down.
Exactly. Over time, there are a lot of guys that are stepping into that rotation. I love Peyton Watson, but he plays one side of the ball. Jalen Pickett's getting minutes. Like they're trying to get anybody out there that can give them any sort of, and we haven't talked about Russ. Like Russ, basically won them game one with his effort in the level that he was giving on the defensive end and everything that he does.
F things up.
Yeah, exactly. Right. And he said that himself, but it's like, again, at this stage in his career, you can only get so much from Russ, and there's always going to be good with the bad and bad with the good. So, I think that a first round exit would almost be beneficial for them in terms of like it makes it easier to make those types of swift decisions, hard decisions. But at the same time, like you said, when you have a player like Jokic, best player in the world, I don't think anybody's going to argue that. Like you want to be making deep runs every year. So it's kind of a win-lose situation. But, I do agree with you that the Nuggets feel like, and this is through two games where the series is tied 1-1. Yeah, obviously a lot can change. We're going to say that a lot, but like, it does already feel like he's going to need more help around him than he's had this season.
Yeah, and one last thing we talked about earlier in the year. We got the breaking news, by the way. Evan Mobley, Defensive Player of the Year. So we'll give him a shout out in a second. But I asked you like a while ago when I said, does Jokic feel inevitable to where like you have him on your roster, you feel like it doesn't matter who the other team has or what they'll do, you're going to win at least a series or two. And again, things could change as the series goes on, but I haven't necessarily felt that just because of the trust and the way he plays and the style he plays. It's not like a LeBron James. Now, that being said, Evan Mobley, Defensive Player of the Year, beats out Draymond Green and Dyson Daniels. We weren't expecting that, I don't think. And as a part of that, $45 million added to his rookie extension for winning an end-of-season award. So dinner on Evan Mobley. You don't know us, but, whatever. If you're ever in Charlotte or L.A., bro, congratulations to him. This just speaks to his growth and what he's done. I think that kind of shifts the scale a little bit with that 2021 draft class. Although Cade on those power rankings as well, it's a pretty damn good draft class with him. It's Scotty, Cade, all have gotten all-star nods already in their first 5 seasons. So I think everybody's happy with the way that turned out.
Yeah, it's funny. Me and my brother were actually talking about that last night when we were watching the games. We were texting back and forth about how good that draft class is. But yeah, hey, hell of a season from Evan Mobley. Like he was a huge reason why that defense was as good as it was. But at the same time, like, I don't know, this has been you and I talked about it before on here. Like, this is a weird year for DPOY because, like, realistically, if it wasn't for the 65 game minimum, like, I'm asking you honestly, like, do you think Wemby still would have won DPOY if the 65 game minimum wasn't a thing? Because, like, at the end of the year, he still led the league in blocks. Yeah. And he didn't even play the second half of the season. Yeah, like, do you think he would have won it? Honestly.
Did he play in like 45, 46 games? I think it was.
I don't remember. I think
it was 45. And I know why you look, whatever it is, I think if he played like in between like 40 and 50 games, I think that he would have had a really, really solid case because ultimately, right, like
46 games.
46 games. I remember what I wrote about it. Like, it feels like, you know, if you want to give it to the best defender in the league, it would have to be him. And especially thinking about, you know, what he meant to that Spurs defense and all of that, and obviously what he's going to continue to mean to that Spurs defense. So very weird, you know, not trying to take away from Evan Mobley at all, but it does feel like 65 game minimum. We're going to have to figure that stuff out, because I saw something else, saw a story that Chris Dunn played enough games, but he didn't play enough minutes in enough games to even get all defense consideration. And he's been really good for the Clippers as well. So again, it's interesting. Maybe we need to just go back to the drawing board a little bit and tweak the 65 game rule a little bit, but that doesn't take away from what Evan Mobley has done, doesn't take away from the 2021 draft class. Thanks for checking out NBA Sound System Canada on YouTube. If you haven't already, make sure to subscribe below and find us wherever you get your podcasts. And on Instagram, we have weekly episodes and bonus content throughout the week.